The void of space was never truly silent. Stars hummed, radiation whispered, and the dying light of forgotten suns carried echoes of wars that had long burned themselves to ash. Yet tonight, across the Orion expanse, silence reigned with an unnatural weight. It was the silence of anticipation, of dread hanging in the lungs of every living being who felt the shift in the currents of fate. At the edge of that darkness floated a single shape. One vessel, silent, motionless. Its silhouette stretched across, the starlight like the shadow of a predator. The archives called it the Revenant. Legends said it was not built by human hands, though it bore the scars of human wars. Some whispered it had been unearthed from beneath Mars' red sands. Others claimed it had drifted into the Sol system long before the first radio waves left Earth. No one knew which was true. No one dared to find out. But all knew one thing. The ship carried a weapon, a single cannon that pulsed with power vast enough to split planets, erase fleets, and bend the balance of entire galaxies. It was said that the Revenant had fired only once. And when it did, 1,000 warships, an entire Dominion armada, vanished in a heartbeat. Not destroyed with fire, nor torn apart by shrapnel. No, they were erased, reduced to light, dissolved into the void as though they had never existed. That was centuries ago. And since then, the galaxy had agreed on one truth. The Revenant must never awaken again. Captain Ilara Vey stood upon the command deck of the Aegis Dawn, her breath tight as the holographic projection of the Revenant spun before her crew. The ship was more rumor than reality to her, but the transmission that had reached the Galactic Council 2 days ago was undeniable. The Revenant had reappeared. Her crew of 30 exchanged tense glances, as if staring into the eyes of a ghost. The air was thick with unspoken questions, but none dared voice them. Not yet. Report, Ilara commanded, her voice steady, though her heart rattled against her ribs. Lieutenant Kale adjusted the sensors, his fingers trembling over the console. It's just there, Captain. Stationary. No energy signatures, no movement, no crew detected. It's like it's waiting. Waiting for what? Murmured someone from the back. Ilara didn't answer. She was staring too intently at the image, her mind chasing fragments of childhood stories her father once told her. He had fought in the Orion collapse, the war where the Revenant had fired its single shot. His eyes had never lost that shadow. Afterward, this ship, Ilara whispered, more to herself than anyone else, was never meant to be found again. Beyond their position, across half the galaxy, the great powers stirred. The Jacquard Dominion, whose forefathers had tasted the ship's wrath, scrambled its fleets. The Sereth Coalition began gathering intel. Even the Council, fractured and indecisive, whispered frantic orders into the void. But whispers would not stop what was coming. Somewhere, someone had triggered the Revenant's reappearance, and whoever controlled it controlled the fate of every star system alive. The Aegis Dawn crept closer. Its hull creaked against the strain of entering the dead zone around the Revenant. No comms, no signals, no echo of life. Just the black silhouette waiting in silence. Distance, 50,000 clicks, Kyle reported. Ilara inhaled slowly. Her reflection stared back at her from the observation glass. Dark hair tied tight, jaw clenched, her uniform heavy with the weight of authority she didn't ask for. This wasn't a scouting mission anymore. This was stepping into the mouth of myth. Bring us closer, she ordered. Her crew stiffened, but no one dared oppose her. They trusted her, or maybe they feared the silence more than her command. As the distance closed, the Revenant's form became clearer. Its hull was unlike any known alloy, jagged lines carved with runes of some ancient tongue. Parts of its plating shimmered faintly, as though still alive, pulsing with a rhythm deeper than technology. Captain, Kale's voice cracked. It's reading us. The crew froze. What do you mean, reading us? Alara asked. I don't know, it's scanning, but not through sensors. It feels like it's inside my head. Several other crew members gasped, hands clutching their temples. Shadows flickered across their vision, memories not their own bleeding into consciousness. Alara felt it too. The deck dissolved around her, and suddenly she was standing in the void itself, face to face with the Revenant. Its cannon pulsed once, like the heartbeat of a star, and in that pulse she heard a voice not spoken in sound but carved, directly into her mind. Wielder. The vision snapped. She staggered, gripping the edge of her console. Sweat chilled her brow, but she stood tall, refusing to show weakness. The crew stared at her, wide-eyed. Captain? Kyle's voice was barely a whisper. It chose you. The declaration hung in the air like a noose. Alara didn't speak. She couldn't, because part of her, the part that still clung to reason, knew he was right. She had felt it. The Revenant wasn't dead metal. It was alive, aware, and waiting. And now, it had chosen her. The void outside stirred. For the first time in centuries, the great cannon on the Revenant's bow pulsed faintly with light. An ember awakening in the dark. Alarms shrieked across the Aegis dawn. Captain! We're detecting power buildup! Massive energy surge! Kale cried. Shields up! Get us out of range! Now! Alara shouted. But it was too late. The pulse spread outward, not as a weapon but as a wave, a beacon of fire across the void. Every fleet across the galaxy felt it. Every admiral, every warlord, every counselor sitting upon their jeweled thrones suddenly turned their heads toward one point in space. The Revenant had awakened. And the galaxy would never be the same. The void shuddered with echoes of power. The pulse from the Revenant rippled through the Orion expanse, crossing gulfs of darkness faster than light, faster than reason. Worlds trembled as their skies shimmered with a ghostly afterglow. Fleets in transit faltered as their navigational charts warped under the wave. Admirals cursed, priests whispered prophecies long forbidden. Children in far-flung colonies woke screaming, their dreams filled with visions of a ship older than their stars. The ball. Revenant had stirred, and nothing could unmake that fact. On the command deck of the Aegis Dawn, silence clung like frost. The crew stared at the display, where the Revenant's hull now burned with faint veins of light, alive with incomprehensible patterns. The great cannon mounted at its bow thrummed slowly, like a heart finding its rhythm after centuries of slumber. Alara Vey forced her voice to remain steady. Status report. Kale's hands shook over the console. Energy output is off every scale. We have. I can't even calculate it. Captain, this thing, if it fires, it won't. Alara cut him off sharply. Too sharply. Her words rang hollow even in her own ears. She could still feel the whisper branded into her mind. That single word. Wielder. The crew needed her. Steady, but inside her veins burned with dread. Far across the galaxy, responses had already begun. The Jakar Dominion, the very empire that had lost 1,000 ships to the Revenant's single shot, activated its war protocol. Entire armadas mobilized, ships swarming like hornets shaken from a nest. Their leaders swore vengeance, even after centuries of silence. For them, the ship was not myth. It was a wound still bleeding. The Seraph coalition took a different path. They dispatched their inquisitors, zealots cloaked in silver robes, wielders of old sciences that blurred the line with faith. They did not speak of vengeance. They spoke of purification, of eradicating a weapon too dangerous to exist. Even the Council of Concord, fractured and indecisive, found a rare moment of unity. Their fleets began to converge, their diplomats sending frantic messages to every corner of the stars. Contain this before it's too late. And somewhere deeper, in the black between galaxies, forces unseen shifted. The Revenant's awakening had drawn not only the powers of men and aliens, but older things. Watchers in the dark, who remembered what even empires had forgotten. On the Aegis Dawn, Ilara's decision loomed like a blade over her neck. "Captain," Kale said quietly, "the wave has gone system-wide. We're already receiving pings, fleets, mercenaries, scavengers. Everyone knows it's here. They'll be on us soon." Ilara clenched her fists. "Then we move. We can't sit still while the galaxy closes in." "Move where?" her second officer, Dara, demanded. "This isn't a scouting mission anymore. We're parked beside a myth that could erase civilizations. We should call in reinforcements, alert the council." Ilara turned slowly, her eyes hard. "And what do you think the council will do, Dara? Negotiate? Study it? No. They'll fight over it. They'll throw fleets at it until they either control it or destroy it. And we'll be ground to dust between them." Her words struck the deck like hammers. The crew shifted uneasily, the truth in her voice undeniable. "What are you suggesting?" Kyle asked carefully. Ilara hesitated. The thought was poison, but it had already taken root. She glanced at the great vessel outside the glass, its cannon humming with restrained infinity. "We take it." Gasps rippled through the bridge. "Captain." "I didn't say use it," Ilara snapped. "But if the Revenant has chosen me, if it's listening, we cannot allow anyone else to seize it. Not the Dominion, not the Coalition, not even the Council. If we walk away, millions die in the war that follows." Her crew stared at her, caught between fear and awe. They were soldiers, explorers, survivors. But this was no mission. This was stepping into legend, with the galaxy's gaze already burning on them. And yet, none spoke against her. Docking with the Revenant was like approaching a slumbering beast. The Aegis Dawn extended its umbilical bridge, latching onto the ancient hull. The moment their seals locked, the lights of the great ship flared faintly, as though acknowledging their presence. Ilara led the boarding party herself. Her boots clanged softly on the alien alloy, every step echoing in the hollow corridors. The air inside was breathable, impossibly so, as though the ship had prepared for them. The walls pulsed faintly, alive with veins of light. The architecture was both alien and eerily human, blending smooth arcs with impossible geometry. No dust, no decay, just waiting. Kale's voice whispered over the comms. "This place feels wrong." "It feels alive," Ilara muttered. And then they reached it. The core chamber. A vast cathedral of metal and light, where the heart of the Revenant throbbed in silence. At its center stood a single throne. No, a command seat, woven from cables and alloy that seemed to breathe. The great cannon's veins stretched from this chamber, pulsing outward like arteries from a heart. And the moment Ilara entered, the whispers returned. "Wielder. Command." She staggered, clutching her temple, as the voice cut through her mind. But along with it came images, fleets burning, stars unraveling, the sound of silence after entire civilizations were gone. She saw the last wielder's face, twisted with both awe and horror, as the weapon fired once and ended an empire. Ilara gasped, falling to her knees. The vision seared itself into her soul. Kale rushed forward. "Captain!" She held up a hand, forcing herself upright. Her body trembled, but her voice was iron. "It's not just a weapon, it's a judge. It doesn't destroy blindly, it erases what it deems unworthy." "Unworthy?" Kale's face paled. "Who decides that?" Ilara met his eyes. "We do, or I do. That's why it chose me. The chamber throbbed once more, the light intensifying as though in agreement. Outside, the void was no longer empty. The first fleet had arrived. Jakar warships burst from hyperspace in formation, bristling with weapons, their crimson hulls gleaming like fresh blood. Their commander's voice cracked across the comms. "This is High Warlord Zyros of the Dominion. By order of vengeance and blood oath, the abomination known as the Revenant will be purged. Surrender your vessel and stand down, humans, or you will share its fate." Ilara stood tall within the command chamber, her hand hovering over the alien controls. She could feel the ship's hunger beneath her fingertips, waiting, eager. Kale's voice trembled. "Captain, if you answer with that cannon, the fleet won't stand a chance." Ilara's lips pressed into a thin line. The galaxy was converging, and the blade she now held was sharper than anything ever forged. But one truth screamed louder than the rest. If she fired, there would be no turning back. The Revenant waited. And Ilara had to choose. The Jakar fleet darkened the stars. Hundreds of warships, their crimson hulls glinting like fresh blood, spread across the void in formation. Weapons charged, their energy signatures painting the black with angry light. At the forefront loomed the Dominion's flagship, its spiked silhouette dwarfing even the Aegis Dawn. Within the Revenant's command chamber, Ilara felt the ship's heartbeat quicken. The veins of light coursed brighter, flowing into the cannon that stretched from the vessel's bow. It was alive. It was waiting. And it wanted to fire. "Captain," Kale whispered, his voice trembling. "They'll open fire any second. If you don't act." Ilara's jaw clenched. Sweat dripped down her brow, but her hand hovered inches above the alien controls. She could feel them pulsing, like veins eager to latch onto her skin. One touch, and the weapon would answer. One thought, and an empire would end. But the visions still haunted her. The silence after annihilation. The hollow eyes of the last wielder. The power was not just destruction. It was judgment. And she was not ready to be a judge. The Dominion fired first. Beams of plasma lanced across the void, hammering the Revenant's shields. The ship shuddered, yet not a scratch marred its hull. Its energy swallowed the onslaught like a stone in a storm. Ilara's crew screamed warnings across the comms. The Aegis Dawn shook violently, caught in the crossfire. Ilara's heart wrenched. Her people were dying while she hesitated. The voice surged in her mind again, commanding and cold. "Wielder! Command! Erase!" Her hand shook above the controls. Her father's stories echoed in her mind. The horror of watching 1,000 ships vanish in silence. He had always said, "Power without restraint is the death of the soul." Ilara's lips curled into a whisper. "I won't be your executioner." But fate didn't wait for her choice. Another fleet ripped into the system. The Seraph Coalition. Their ships were sleek, silver-like blades drawn against the dark. Instead of joining the Dominion, they turned their weapons on both sides. "Inquisitor Aranth of the Seraph," their broadcast thundered. "The Revenant is corruption made flesh. It must be cleansed, and all who touch it burn to ash." Missiles streaked. Beams crossed. The void erupted in a storm of fury. Dominion warships clashed with Seraph hunters, their old rivalries igniting at the worst possible moment. And at the center of it all, the silent, waiting predator that could end them both with a breath. The Revenant. On the Aegis Dawn, chaos reigned. Panels sparked. The hull screamed under impacts. Kale staggered to Ilara's side, desperation in his eyes. "Captain, we can't survive this. If you don't fire, they'll tear us apart along with each other." Ilara's chest heaved, her heart pounding. She stared into the abyss beyond the glass. Fleets tearing each other to pieces, millions of lives hanging in the balance. One shot could end it. One shot could erase the war, erase the threat. But it would also erase them. The Revenant did not. fire with precision. It did not spare or discriminate, it judged. It erased Dot, and she could not unleash it without damning her soul, Dot. Then she understood Dot. The Revenant wasn't a weapon of conquest. It was a mirror. It gave power to those who held it, yes, but it also demanded a choice. Every wielder was tested, not by how they destroyed, but by whether they resisted Dot. That was why the last wielder had fired once. And then, never again, Dot. And now it was her turn. Ilara drew a sharp breath, lowering her hand from the controls. "No," she whispered. "I won't." The ship's veins pulsed furiously, the light searing her vision. The voice roared inside her skull. "Wielder! Obey!" Her teeth clenched. "No. You chose me, and I choose restraint. I am not your executioner. I am your jailer." The Revenant screamed in her mind, a tide of fury and fire. But then, slowly, the light dimmed. The cannon's hum lowered, pulsing softer, like a beast forced back into slumber. And for the first time, the voice whispered not with command, but with something almost like respect. Choice. Worthy. Outside, the battle raged, but something shifted. Without the Revenant's retaliation, both fleets faltered. The Dominion hesitated, their vengeance trembling against the memory of what one shot could do. The Seraph slowed, realizing the ship was not firing. Confusion rippled through both sides. And then came the third wave. The Council of Concord. Their vast fleet tore into the system, dwarfing both Dominion and Seraph forces, but instead of opening fire, they broadcast a single message across every channel. "Cease fire. The Revenant has awakened, but it has not fired. Stand down or face annihilation at our hands instead of its." The Dominion and Seraph, bloodied and shaken, had no choice but to comply. Their weapons dimmed, engines cooled. The battlefield fell into an uneasy silence, broken only by drifting wreckage and the faint glow of distant stars. In the command chamber, Ilara collapsed into the throne, her strength drained. Kale caught her arm, his voice unsteady. "Captain, what did you do?" Ilara's eyes fluttered shut. "I chose." The chamber pulsed once more with faint light, then went still. The Revenant returned to silence, its power dormant. It had not been unleashed. Not today. And maybe, just maybe, not ever again. Weeks later, whispers spread across the galaxy. The Dominion spoke of a human captain who had been chosen but refused to fire. The Seraph declared her restraint proof that even corruption could be resisted. The Council used the moment to broker an uneasy truce, their fleets lingering like wolves forced to lie down together. And through it all, the Revenant drifted once more into myth, silent and waiting, tethered only to the will of its last wielder. Ilara. Ve. On the observation deck of the Aegis Dawn, Ilara stood alone, watching the stars. She could still feel the ship's echo in her mind, a presence that would never fully leave her, a reminder of the choice she had made. Her father's voice whispered in memory. "Power without restraint is the death of the soul." She smiled faintly, bitter and proud all at once. "I chose restraint, Father, and for now, that will have to be enough." The stars burned on, indifferent to war or peace. But somewhere in the dark, the most dangerous ship in existence slept, not with hunger, but with patience. Waiting for the next time it would test the heart of whoever dared to command it.